Hello, everyone, and welcome to 4 at 4. Sorry, yes, 4 at 4 Forums. I am Anita Vogel, your host for Good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing very well.
Great. Well, we have a great show for everyone today. On our show, we are going to have conversations about loneliness and the need to engage with our family members during the holidays, especially during these COVID times, these difficult COVID times where all of us are really so isolated. On today's show, we are going to be having conversations with leading experts on loneliness and again, the need to engage with our loved ones. Let's go ahead now and meet our very esteemed panel. I'd love to take the opportunity to go around the room or around the screen, so to speak. Again, I'm Anita Vogel, and you may recognize me from my years at the Fox News Channel, and Susan Steen from her years at Warner Brothers. Susan, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you did at Warner Brothers.
Well, I was at Warner Brothers for over 30 years, and am grateful that I had the experience of being there when we were still in theaters and film was film. It was a wonderful time. As a result of being there, I have a lot of people who in my life who are older now. And so this is a very topical interview for today for me, because I like to know how I can make their lives a little bit better.
Great, absolutely, and we love to welcome your insight on that. Right now, let's go ahead and welcome our guests. We have Dr. Scott Kaiser from the Motion Picture Television Fund. Scott, welcome to the program, or shall I call you Dr. Kaiser?
Call me whatever you like, just don't call me late for dinner, right? So, thank you, Susan. Thank you so much.
Also joining us is Nathan Fear of Megilla. Megilla or Megilla?
Megilla.
Megilla, excuse me. And this is a brand new company, very new, but it's something everyone is going to want to hear about and maybe put under their tree for Christmas. But Scott, let's start with you. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work there at the Motion Picture Television Fund?
Sure. So first and foremost, I'm a geriatrician, and that's a physician specializing in the care of older people. And I'm the Chief Innovation Officer at MPTF, the Motion Picture Television Fund. We're a charitable organization that serves people who work or worked in the entertainment industry, you know, all the people mostly behind the scenes in television and film, and really incredible organization. I've been there a number of years and have just each year am more moved by the work that we do, supporting people really from the beginning of life. We have childcare to end of life. We have an award-winning palliative care program and an incredible campus in Woodland Hills where about 250 retired industry members live and thrive.
That is so wonderful. And you always hear so much about that Woodland Hills campus and the great things going on there. And it is really a treasure to the Los Angeles community, which depends so much on the film industry.
Absolutely.
Nathan, go ahead and tell us a little bit about you and your exciting new company.
Sure, of course. A little bit of background. I'm a Milwaukee native. I spent some time, I'm a former attorney, and I was headed into finance, Midtown Manhattan years ago, and I made a major 180 and shifted to migrate to Los Angeles and become a writer-producer like everybody else here. I've always been gravitated towards seniors throughout my life. I had a great relationship with my grandparents, always kind of gravitating towards them for their wisdom and their emotion. And that led me to, in my first year here, I was working on a TV show, and at night I wanted something else to do. So I lied my way into teaching comedy improv to seniors at a senior living community. And that kind of evolved into storytelling. I've been leading storytelling sessions for about a decade. And that kind of parlayed and segued into the company that I have now.
Wow. Well, we can't wait to hear more about that. And of course, being in news my whole career, I love the storytelling aspect of what you guys do. Before we get to our Q&A, we want to take a moment to thank our sponsors who are here with us today. First, we'd like to thank Home Helpers Trusted Caregiving. Home Helpers Trusted Caregiving, providing seniors and families with the kind of caregiving we'd all like to have. Dwight Brown from Home Helpers is here today. Hello, Dwight.
Hello, thank you.
And we can't wait to hear more about your company. I also want to mention that you are chair of the New West Symphony. That's a whole other program we could do. But we want to talk about your Home Helpers company today. And I think you have a video that you'd like to share with us.
I do.
Sometimes our loved ones need help with basic activities of daily living, including hygiene and nutritional needs to stay in their homes living enriched, engaged, and independent lives. Personal in-home care by a Home Helpers professional provides the needed support so your aging or disabled family member can be where they're happiest, at home. We can help with a range of needs, including feeding, bathing, dressing, using the bathroom, mobility, getting in and out of bed, sitting and standing, navigating stairs. Sometimes the need for a personal care services extends beyond the home, so Home Helpers offers personal care services in other locations too. Retirement communities, nursing homes, hospitals, rehabilitation centers, independent living facilities, assisted living facilities.
Wow, that was great. Dwight, I know, from personal experience, in the last 5 or 6 years of my mother's life, we had caregivers in her home doing all of the things that your video mentioned. And I know that, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night unless I had those ladies there taking care of her. So tell us a little bit more about Home Helpers.
Sure, you mentioned it right away. We are caregivers that give you personal security knowing that your family is taken care of. So, the video talked a little bit about what we do in facilities. So we help facilities around town, especially now when they're suffering from staff sicknesses. They need a lot of help in their staffing. But the vast majority of what we do is helping families to feel secure. We're probably the first generation, everybody's calling it the sandwich generation now, where we're having to take care of kids and now we're having to take care of our parents. And caregivers basically help with that. As you can imagine right now during COVID, that's even more because fewer and fewer people are wanting to send their the parents, or fewer and fewer of the older parents are wanting to go into assisted living facilities and community living facilities. So we're taking care of them at home. And on a personal level, I've been working with seniors for 5 years. Before this, I worked for a company called CareMore, which was a part of Anthem, and I worked in the Medicare division there. And we actually did a big focus on loneliness. We had a chief loneliness officer there. This is becoming a major topic, and it's something that I deal with as well. Every day, I get phone calls from 3 or 4 seniors that essentially just want to talk. So it's a very serious topic.
And isn't it true, Dwight? I've heard that for people who can keep their parents at home, their parents are able to live a longer life. Is that true? Well,
no matter what, the engagement for sure. So I think living a home alone, I think has been identified by a number of people, and I'm sure Dr. Scott can talk about that. It decreases the length of your life substantially. Loneliness it just causes all kinds of other problems. For a lot of seniors that try to stay at home too long, you're going to get injuries. The number one is falling. Right. I think every doctor will tell you once there's a fall, things go downhill very, very quickly. I've had calls. I got a call recently from a couple. It was a family member that said, my mom, my dad needs help taking care of mom. Mom is blind, has Parkinson's, having a lot of trouble getting in and out of the shower. She's significantly overweight. I said, how is she doing that now? She said, well, dad's 95 and helping her. And I'm thinking of a 95-year-old trying to help someone that's obese in and out of a shower is an accident waiting to happen for both people. And that's exactly what we help with.
That's where Home Helpers come in. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being our sponsor today. We're honored to have you with us. And right now, we'd like to jump in with our panelists and talk a little bit more about this. And Susan, I know you've got some questions for Scott, but I want to slip one in there for Nathan first, because this is really new technology. This is something that I think a lot of families are going to want to take advantage of, especially during the holidays. So tell us a little bit more about your company and how the website works and what it means to people to have this kind of history that you can pass down to your loved ones.
Sure. I'll start with just a little bit of a background. So I'm a first-born generation American, and my mom was born in a displaced persons camp after the Holocaust. So we lost a lot of people, and I grew up with these generational gaps that many families do have for one reason or another, which always kind of haunted me throughout life. Fast forward to 6 years ago, my father died pretty quickly from cancer before I had 2 children that I have now, and they will never know the greatness of their grandfather, my father.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to create something that easy technology, like do-it-yourself technology, that can help families easily record short bite-sized videos about their stories that can transcend generations. So we originally had a production company where you film people, but we realized not everyone can afford that, and we wanted something that scaled to all people of all wallet sizes, so to speak. And so now we have this platform that is a web app. It's not a mobile app, so to speak. So basically what it is it's like a question and answer app where you can send people questions. For example, I send my mom 3 questions a week about either I write the question or we have a library of 1,000 questions that you can access based on your life and specifically what you want to talk about. We just wanted to make it easy. And I talk to my mom twice a day. I love her, but I joke because she's one of my best customers because she's horrendous at technology. So just awful. And so I've learned so much just from her experience, so that even the most technophobic, it only takes recording 2 videos to really understand how the system works.
Do you have an example to show us? Do you have a video to show us?
I do believe I do. Yes.
Are you ready to show it to us now, or do you need to use the technology to cue it up?
It's kind of it's one of our early promo videos that I made with my son, Scott is non-union. So it just kind of talks about the genesis of the company and very quickly how it works.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Nathan, and this is my dad.
He taught me the art of vacuuming in a bathrobe and everything I know about being good in the world. A real mensch. He was my hero and my favorite guy on earth.
Now I have a new favorite guy on earth, but he will never know his grandfather in any meaningful way. I'm sure you all have special people in your lives whose stories you wish you had recorded or you want to record.
So we created Megilla, an online video storytelling platform where you can tell your story and connect with your family and community in just a few clicks. Our question menu is the heart of Megilla. We have over 850 questions in many categories. Questions are the bridge to conversation and to deeper connection. Answer any question you want in 3, 2, 1, start telling your story. Your videos are safely and privately stored on our site and on Amazon Web Services in the cloud. You can download your content anytime, so you are always the 100% true owner of all your videos. You can also send anyone a personal question too. This creates an amazing bridge of conversation and connection.
Megilla is so easy to use from the comfort of your home, this guy thinks it's pants optional. Stories have a powerful way of bridging generations and keeping everyone connected. At Megilla, we believe everyone has a story to tell.
Wow, that
Love
was
it.
powerful. That's incredible.
Yes.
I forgot that we even made that. My son is taller than me by now, so that was a little while ago.
Well, it is really amazing, and it is such a great way to preserve our older loved ones' stories. And I know Susan has some questions for Dr. Scott, who works with older people all the time. So Susan, take it away.
Dr. Scott, there's a couple of things that I wanted to ask. It's no mystery that social isolation has increased during COVID. What is it that we might do to alleviate that? And quite frankly, why is it important? Why is it important for us to do something about it?
Sure, Susan. Yeah, let me start with the why it's important. So, why as a physician was I introduced as a loneliness expert, which I'm not a loneliness expert, but it's definitely something I think a lot about. And I'll tell you when I started thinking about it. I was listening to a colleague present this very well done scientific paper looking at things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things that you would expect a physician to be examining. And it was looking at a large retiree data set, and it found that people who were chronically lonely were the most likely to have health problems, the most likely to decline functionally, as we heard from our sponsor about people's desire to stay at home and how important it is to remain independent, functionally independent, and even the biggest predictor of premature mortality, dying younger. than expected. So, I mean, that was a real eye opener for me that, we spend a lot of time. Every time you go to the doctor, they check your blood pressure. We have a million medicines and all sorts of things, but we don't ask people how they're doing in terms of if they're feeling lonely. And as I learned more about this, I realized there's an amazing wealth of information out there about how relationships impact our health in all sorts of positive and negative ways. So when you ask the question of what to do, I mean, it sounds obvious, but the devil's in the details. Is the solution to isolation is connection.
Right. And so how at the Motion Picture Television Fund, how have you implemented that?
Well, so many ways. I mean, we've spent a number of years now. Our mission is supporting members of the entertainment industry community in living well and aging well with dignity and purpose. And it's just so crystal clear to us that social connection is fundamental to that. We can't achieve our mission without addressing it. So for one, on our campus, it's something that we think a lot about, and COVID has really put us to the test. I mean, we work very hard through all sorts of programming to keep our residents connected, engaged. And so we've had to adapt. For example, we have an in-house television program, television station, Channel 22. It used to be all pre-recorded content. We've adapted now, and we have live broadcasts several days a week with original content that's produced by our staff and by our residents. And that's really essential to kind of keep people and keep that community together. We have a program coming up next week where we're going to be talking about COVID vaccination, bring some experts on. And then there's all sorts of fun game shows, variety, everything. It's really great. That's the campus. That's one set of challenges. We know that people beyond our campus, and 90% of people do want to age at home. So we have a lot of industry members who we have to support in living well and aging well wherever they may be. That's a whole nother challenge. And again, COVID has really amplified. There was a loneliness epidemic before, believe it or not, but now the convergence of the COVID pandemic and the pre-existing loneliness epidemic has just made a massive challenge. So we have all sorts of programs where we have volunteers that just call people to check in, calling tens of thousands of calls to check in on people. And then we actually have something called the daily call sheet, where we match people for ongoing calls. And this is incredible because these amazing connections and relationships blossom where people connect because they have this common past, that they worked in the industry. We have people connecting across generations, young people and old people, talking to each other on a regular basis, developing these great, important friendships and bonds, all sorts of interesting connections. And these connections become some of the most important things in people's lives. And they can tell you that. You don't need a doctor or scientist to tell you. But what I can see, and I've looked at the data, is that these connections are actually influencing people's health and well-being. This is helping people live better by having, less inflammation, lower blood pressure, less emergency department visits, less falls. All those things are the goals of these kinds of connectivity programs and the things that social connection can influence.
So is the legacy project that Nathan was introducing us to earlier, is that something you would use at the Motion Picture Home, perhaps, to get those people to tell their story about a business that doesn't really exist anymore, quite like it did when they were in it?
Yeah. So, I mean, we spend a lot of time in our community thinking about legacy, and because we have this unique community that we take care of and we honor, right? So we've had programs like a Behind the Silver Screen where we're archiving, collecting that history from everybody who moves onto our campus, and we're trying to engage the industry beyond the campus. But with all the things we've done, I mean, I don't think we've ever had the kinds of tools, especially the do-it-yourself tools that Nathan's bringing to the table with Megilla. So, I mean, I'd love to figure out ways that we can use that. At the end of the day, what he's working on, connection, purpose, legacy, that's the stuff he's getting to the core of what really matters most to people in the end. And there's so much noise in life, particularly in midlife. I know, just trying to career things, family things, just a lot, some things that are important and a lot of noise that's probably not going to be that important. But when you talk to people later in life, or when you've lost a loved one, or as we're all going through now, where you go through this huge challenge that upends your life, it's an important opportunity to pause and reflect upon what really matters. What is most essential to you? What do you really need to prioritize? And in fact, you really can't address any aspect of health and well-being without really focusing on that core understanding of what's important to you first.
No doubt, no doubt. And this is great information. And I think you guys have a good connection here. I think Nathan can bring some interesting technology to the home in Woodland Hills. So hopefully you guys can chat about that after the show. Right now, we want to stand by. This is kind of a heavy topic, right? So let's lighten the mood a little bit with some great music. We have an awesome musician with us today, musician and actor John Bobek. He is here joining us now live, and he is going to lighten the mood with some of his great tunes. John,
that's great. Thank you so much. Yeah, you asked me to do a couple songs about loneliness, and I thought, well, Roy Orbison, right? Only the lonely. Yes. That's where you got to start, right?
All right.
So here we go. Dum 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 dibby doo ah. Ooh yeah 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 yeah. Oh 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 ah. Only the lonely. Only the lonely. Only the lonely. Know the way I feel tonight. Only the lonely know this feeling ain't right. There goes my baby. There goes my heart. They're gone forever. So far apart, but only the lonely know why I cry. Only the lonely, dum 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 dooby doo ah. Ooh yeah 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 yeah. Oh oh oh. Only the lonely, only the lonely know the heartaches I've been through. Only the lonely know I cried and cried for you. Maybe tomorrow a new romance. There's no more sorrow, but that's the chance you gotta take. If your lonely heart breaks, only the lonely, dum 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 dooey doo ah.
Wow, that was great.
Yeah, it was.
Awesome. I loved his sort of new arrangement that he put on that song. It was great, huh?
And he has the look too. He has the look. I love it.
That was awesome. And we're going to get to hear from him a little bit later in the show also. So Susan, let's welcome back our panel. And I know you have another question all lined up for Scott, but I wondered if I could just ask Scott quickly if he could share the example that he shared with our panel right before we came to air about the daily call sheet at the home in Woodland Hills. And if he could tell just a quick version of the story about how that program impacted someone's life.
Absolutely. Yeah. And before I answer that, just look, what a great song. Thank you, John. And there are so many songs about loneliness and the experience, because this is a universal human condition, loneliness, where you're craving, you're thirsting, you're hungering for social connection. It's a signal from the body, that you're craving this connection, which you really need. And then, you know, that experience is just very, very fundamental human and drives a lot of creativity. But the story, so the daily call years with people for ongoing calls. And we had one match that really came to mind, especially with everything going on with COVID and just in terms of how far we can reach. There was a gentleman who lived in a nursing home in the Midwest who had worked in the industry. He was actually very well known by his coworkers in the industry, but he was living out there in the Midwest. His health was failing, end of his life. And nobody knew this history, this rich history. He had nobody he could just talk shop, talk the biz with. And so we connected him with a volunteer, and they got to talking, and they knew all sorts of people in common, and they developed this really incredible bond. And this gentleman told us that this meant so much to him. In fact, he wrote a letter that was next to him on his deathbed about how this had absolutely, this connection had completely transformed the last chapter of his life and really made it a positive, wonderful, fulfilling chapter. And we get stories like that all the time. And the thing is, if you're isolated, you can get more and more isolated, more and more disconnected. It can become this vicious cycle. There's actually some evolutionary reasoning behind that, but so it can become this vicious cycle. And creating meaningful connection is really the first step to creating more connections, right? You have a gentleman like that who's isolated. He gets this one connection. All of a sudden, he's connecting more with the people around him. And it's just this thing. And that's what the work we're doing, that's what the work what Nathan's doing, is really helping people focus on and prioritize meaningful connection amidst all the other noise of day-to-day life.
I mean, that's just such an incredible story, and, you know, such a profound impact that man was able to share, you know, that this program had on him. It's really telling. And Susan, I know you had some other questions for Dr. Scott about the times we're living in, these unusual, difficult COVID times.
Yeah, well, you've described beautifully what you do and why you do it. And it's obviously, to be a geriatrician is a very satisfying job, though I'm sure it's also very emotionally hard on you at times. But given that our world, particularly in the United States, we're going to be a much older society than the population-wise. We're going to have older people dominating the population. And it seems that all of this information that you're gathering now and all of these techniques are going to be something that probably just need to expand and expand into an everyday execution for medical professionals.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it is. It's a very satisfying area of work because, again, it just brings you into contact with what really matters, right? So, and it's exciting because there are all sorts of challenges related to, as you pointed out, an aging population, not just in the United States, almost everywhere in the world. We have a significantly aging population. You know, we had a 30-year gain in life expectancy over the last century. We had the baby boom. We have people who tend to have smaller families, less babies than before. So that's all resulted in this flipping of the population pyramid, where for the first time in human history, we're about to arrive at a time where you have more people over the age of 65 than under the age of 18. That means, imagine walking around in any neighborhood, in any town, and just seeing more people who are older, maybe using walkers, than new moms pushing baby strollers around, or new dads, as I know Nathan's out there pushing the kids around or carrying them on his back and whatnot. But so that's the world. We have a graying, aging world, and it's exciting to think about how we can best adapt to that and really leverage that as an opportunity. I mean, with that comes all of this great, we have this under-leveraged resource of, you know, retirees, older people who've contributed so much and still have so much to contribute. So now COVID comes, And it's been a very hard time because this is a condition that is disproportionately impacting older people, right? Older people are getting sick and losing their lives at a greater rate. The isolation and loneliness are universal. People of all ages, in fact, some of the younger generations are experiencing the highest levels of loneliness even before COVID when they measure it. But now with COVID, you have seniors who've really had to be careful about staying at home for a long time. I was telling my patients to stay home even before there were stay-at-home orders. The CDC guidelines said stay home. And been telling my patients to stay home for a long time. And a lot of the services that people rely on, people go to senior centers every day, people go to book clubs, people go to lifelong learning programs. All of that stuff has had to stop. Yes. No congregate gathering, particularly for people over 65. Right. So it's been a real challenge, but within that challenge, what's been most exciting is we work at MPTF to, we've been sharing our approaches with everyone. We've developed technology that can help scale this social connectivity programming.
Scott, oh, sorry, Susan. I want to make sure we get to Scott's video. He has a video to show us. Scott, do you have that ready to go? What is it first that you're going to show us, and then roll it?
Well, I'll leave it to I'm not sure which video we're queuing up. I know I definitely want people to know about MPTF, and you can go to mptf.com. I need people to know about this technology, which I'll share more about. Call Hub, MPTF's Connect Call Hub, and you can go to joincallhub.com. And then let's throw up the video and we'll see what it is.
Okay.
Since the pandemic and the necessary stay-at-home and social distancing recommendations, 20 to 30% of adults report that they are feeling lonelier now than pre-COVID. Loneliness occurs across any age, income level, living situation, and gender. However, the highest rates were among those with lower incomes, LGBTQ+, and those living alone.
I think we're going to need to be as creative in bringing people together as we've been about separating them.
We are not going to go back to normal. We are going to go forward to a new reality.
The Motion Picture and Television Fund, MPTF, and the Milken Institute Center for the Future of Aging convened the Social Isolation Impact Summit to confront the realities of isolation and loneliness and the risks to older adults. The takeaways from the 1,200 participants lay the groundwork for a socially connected while physically distant society.
Through various state efforts, from the Neighbor to Neighbor campaign to the Friendship Line to the recently launched Social Bridgers Project, Californians across the state are checking in and connecting with millions of seniors who otherwise would not have these crucial touch points of human relationship and interaction.
What you see on the ground, people have both expanded their services to meet the moment and redesigned.
But the respect for underlying community structure, practices, and leadership, absolutely important.
I think the stereotype that older Americans are kind of slower to adopt technology or unable to adopt technology as a solution, that ends up being kind of a justification for, a stratification around solutions for loneliness that oftentimes kind of robs certain people of actually, digital solutions and tools.
It's about the affordability. It's about the broadband. It's about the content being useful and interesting and relevant at that stage of your life.
We're in the process as area agencies looking for technologies across the country and literally across the world at this point to see what we can adapt to provide for the needs of our communities in Los Angeles.
One of the things that challenges us with social isolation is really studying what interventions work.
We're looking at programs like the Friendship Line. We want to study the effects of the Friendship Line in California, but we are currently unfunded. And that is very difficult, therefore, to show the evidence.
We really need to flip the script on that and really make sure we're shoring up our social safety net, just as we think about our medical safety net.
We must act now and use the COVID pandemic as an opportunity to educate and reach out to policymakers and funders.
Together, our human resources, our financial resources, our intellectual resources, we can do this together.
All right, Scott, thanks for sharing that with us. That was great and really important to put the spotlight on this issue, especially during the holidays. We're going to want to talk more with our panel, but stand by, everyone, because right now we want to go back to John Bobek for some more great music. John, what do you have for us now?
Well, I figured I'd stick with Roy because he seemed to be a pretty lonely guy. You know, and I got the outfit on. Might as well just do it for a little while.
There you
go.
go.
I appreciate being able to sing here. It's been pretty lonely here. My girlfriend and I live together. We've been singing for 2 cats, and they must be getting tired of me by now. So.
Well, we'll be your audience.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to do it for you guys, and can't wait till we can all do it in person very, very soon.
Absolutely.
All right. Here's another song about loneliness by Roy Orbison. Pretty woman walking down the street. Pretty woman, the kind I like to meet. Pretty woman, I don't believe you, you're not the truth. No one can look as good as you. Mercy. Pretty woman, won't you pardon me? Pretty woman, I couldn't help but see. Pretty woman, you look so lovely as can be. Are you lonely just like me? Growl. Pretty woman, stop a while. Pretty woman, talk a while. Pretty woman, give your smile to me. Pretty woman, yeah, yeah, yeah. Pretty woman, look my way. Pretty woman, say you'll stay with me. 'Cause I need you, I'll treat you right. Come with me, baby, be mine tonight. Pretty woman, don't walk on by. Pretty woman, don't make me cry. Pretty woman, don't walk away. Hey. Okay. If that's the way it must be, okay. I guess I'll go on home, it's late. There'll be tomorrow night. But wait, what do I see? Is she walking back to me? She's walking back to me. Oh, pretty woman.
Wow, another great performance.
That was great. I loved it.
Yeah, it's funny how he can make those songs about loneliness seem so lively, right?
and a cappella. So
yeah, right. Yes, exactly. Well, all right, let's bring our panel back right now and want to get some final thoughts on the topic of loneliness and the need to reach out to our loved ones during the holidays. Nathan, let me ask you about your new exciting company, Megilla, right? Megilla? And, you know, it's interesting because you talked about how your relatives survived the Holocaust, I believe. And my relatives survived the Armenian genocide, and I would have loved to have had this technology around to interview my grandmother. So I'm sure so many people would love to take advantage of this. Your your services are free right now. Is that right? Tell us about how people can take advantage of this.
Yes, we kept it free, especially during COVID, because a lot of people have lost jobs and suffered fiscally, that we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to use this for an extended amount of time, especially at a really challenging time for basically all of civilization. So we don't want any opening of the wallet to be a barrier to entry for anyone to tell a story, because we really do think that every family has a story to tell from all backgrounds, and money should not be a barrier to entry for that.
Well, that's just incredible. And what has the turnout been? Have you had lots of customers?
We've had people signing up now, that people we don't know. At first, in any startup, it's always like people you know. Now it's people we don't know from around the country. And we're hoping that through the holidays, as people are isolated, they know more. And everyone that I talk to has someone in their life that they wish they had a story for. So it kind of ignites this idea that, social media is amazing in many ways, but it's also transient. And some of these stories that you can record last forever. And so we're starting to see more people recording videos.
Yeah, that's terrific. Fantastic. Susan, let me toss it over to you, and you can get some final thoughts from Scott.
Well, I just think that this has been a very interesting topic. And of course, as we were talking earlier, given that the population is shifting, so is the idea of aging, and so is the idea of what it means to age. A 40-year-old person now is by no means considered, older, and I'm 60, and I don't feel like I'm a 60-year-old really. So I really thought this was fascinating, and I took from this a lot of things I can do with the elderly people in my life. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you wanted to share?
Yeah, thank you. I would just say, when it comes to good health and well-being, connection matters. This is a hard holidays. I know it's different for everybody, but please keep your people you love, keep healthcare workers safe by staying home and avoiding, socializing with people who are not in your immediate household. But find ways to connect. Call somebody, Zoom, FaceTime, do a Megilla story. There's so many ways to connect these days. Or volunteer. Visit MPTF.com, visit joincallhub.com, and volunteer to make calls to somebody who might not have a friend or family member who's reaching out to them. Somebody who's truly isolated, so that we can make sure that everybody has access to this important connection, which is so essential to our health and well-being.
And this is important during the pandemic, but also during the holidays. So it's a really good message.
Yeah. And, Dr. Scott, I bet you there are so many young actors and actresses that are not working right now that would love to come in and volunteer. Have you been getting some of those folks in?
Absolutely.
Come in to call to be part of the call sheet.
Absolutely. And just visit MPTF.com. We welcome volunteers all the time, COVID, non-COVID, holidays, all the time. There's always something for people to do to contribute. And what we hear time and time again from volunteers is, gosh, I feel like I got more out of it than I possibly could have given.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It's really just a win-win.
And it's such a nice way for people to give back during the holidays. So thank you for sharing that with us. I want to thank our panel today, Dr. Scott Kaiser, Nathan Fear, Susan Steen, Dwight Brown, and John Bobeck. And we're going to get back to him in a minute. But I wanted to mention that the 4 at 4 production team will be taking a break during the holidays. Everybody has to take a break, but we'll be back in January. But you can watch this show during the holidays if you'd like at www.peoplemedialive. One more time, www.peoplemedialive. All right, everyone, happy holidays. Thank you again. This was such an important and a really meaningful discussion. And we want to one more time hear from the very talented John Bobeck, who's going to play us out to the break.
Hey, everybody. A little costume change.
Santa hat on.
This is one of my favorite Christmas songs, and it takes on a new tone with this year being what it is. So be safe out there, and this too will pass. Here we go. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. Next year all our troubles will be miles away. Here we are as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. Someday soon we all will be together, if the fates allow. But until then we'll just have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Hang a shining star upon the highest bough, and have yourself a merry little Christmas now. Merry Christmas, everyone.